Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show here on a beautiful, absolutely beautiful Thursday morning in Houston, Texas, USA. How you doing today, James? How's my buddy
Oh man,
James
I
doing?
can't complain. Wouldn't can't complain at all. Wouldn't do any good at all. But we are here on this Texas real estate
Yeah,
show.
and this is where we want to show information and just share information with anybody that's interested in the real estate market, whether it be in the US. We're predominantly focused in the real estate market in Texas, whether you're an investor, whether you're what we call a wannabe investor, whether you want to learn to do, I don't know, juggle in real estate. Join the show.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we want to talk today, which is an article that actually hit us this morning through Inman News. A lot of you are perhaps not going to understand it so much, and we're going to try and explain it to you, or even make it a little bit more complicated for people. But it's an article where the National Association of Realtors has asked the US Supreme Court to overturn a pocket listing ruling. So, first of all, let me just tell you what a pocket listing is. A pocket listing is a listing that a real estate agent or an individual has that is not listed on the MLS. There are some investors that don't want their properties listed on the MLS because what they will do is they will buy a property. They might buy it for $500,000 and then they will fix it up, work on it, and improve it. Maybe if it's an apartment building, they will increase the rents. They'll update the property. They'll put in new kitchens, and then maybe they'll sell it for 1.5 million, and increase the income for the property. That's on a commercial level. If it's on a residential level, then they might buy a house that unfortunately somebody has passed, and what they've done is um, the family want to just sell the house, get rid of the house, and move on. An investor comes along, buys the house for $50,000. They put maybe, I don't know, another $50,000 in the house, and they maybe sell it for 125 or 150. But they basically do that as a pocket listing. So what they do, if they're an agent, they might have a list of potential buyers that they want to offer that property to. And that way, the agent gets both sides of the deal, or can get both sides of the deal. And that's what I don't like about um, the pocket listing rules. I don't think there should be any pocket listings at all. I think everything should be out in the open and honest. Um, what's your thoughts on it, James?
It's one of these deal situations where it's kind of been Texas is technically a non-disclosure state, which basically means you don't have to publicly list how much the house is sold for. You kind of give a range. That's why a lot of times if you see a home, you pull it up, there's a range and it'll say sold for 225 to 265. And somewhere in that range is what it actually sold for. Um, the whole deal with this issue of this case, as I understand it, um, these appraisal districts were using MLS values or listings to determine values on these properties, which, quite frankly, you and I both know is not always fair. Because how many times have you seen a property listed for super high amount, and then it ends up coming down, and then of course we don't know what it sells for, but it ends up being in that range. So they're determining that values that they'll charge the consumer based on those things. So
Can I just sort of add something to that real
sure,
quickly?
sure.
What James is meaning by that, you've got a new subdivision that's opening with, say, 50 houses. And what people do, they manipulate the system in values. So what they might do for the first five houses, they'll specifically maybe give credits to the buyers, upgrades or whatever. So maybe them houses are worth $500,000 for the first three or four houses. And then if they're building a subdivision lot of 50 houses, that by the time they've sold the 50th house is a huge difference, isn't
Right.
it? On
Absolutely.
their profits and everything else that goes with that. So that's when I say to everybody, I'm not a, unfortunately, I'm not a great lover of builders. I think there's some good builders out there, but it's one of the holes in the system, isn't it? That goes on, and there's different individuals out there in the system that are doing this, that are using that. Correct?
Right. Exactly.
So back to the original point we were saying about just the Supreme Court and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So when they ruled on this, it was basically giving, fair game for these, them to go in and get this under this clear cooperation policy, which is to basically just to make the information free and available to all people involved looking to purchase property, the all brokers, all potential buyers, so on and so forth. So kind of to prevent um, unfair advantages, so to speak, and give consumers the most accurate information. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because when you come in and you see that people are getting taxed on these properties based on higher amounts, whether they do upgrades or not, it can really muddy the waters. But I'm interested to see what the Supreme Court says because this isn't Texas Supreme Court. This is the U.S. Supreme Court because the National Association of Realtors are involved in this situation. So um,
Which is the largest lobbying
yeah, they're a
group. They're
huge lobby up there. But I don't know. It kind of those people that quote unquote don't want to put their properties on MLS. Um, it kind of makes them do that with this. So that's what they're trying to overturn with this deal. So I don't know. We'll
Well,
see.
I
It'll be
think I
interesting.
think if somebody wants to do it for sale by owner, I think they should be allowed to do it for sale by owner.
They should.
The problem that I want to sort of bring into this, and the addition that I want to bring into this Supreme Court with the pocket listings is where wholesaling
Hmm.
fits into this. Um, just to give you a definition of wholesaling is when somebody takes a financial interest in a property. So, say you're selling your house and you've got a thought that says my house is worth 200,000, and they come along and they say, "Well, do you know what? I will, I will make, I want to make an offer on your house for 150." Then what they will do is they'll make a contract offer on your house, and it'll basically say they'll buy your house for 150,000, and on the top of the contract it'll be Mr. Smith at, and then it'll say and or assigns.
Right.
Then what happens is they find another buyer that wants to buy that property, and that buyer will turn around and say, "Well, I'll buy that property for 175." And then the day of closing, there's two closings. There's the first closing where the one person who bought it basically for $150,000 will basically buy it from the person and then sell it to the second person for
Hmm.
$175,000, make themselves $25,000 profit. Now, all sounds very easy, doesn't it, in life?
Right.
But there's a lot of issues when you do that because, as real estate agents, we're licensed. We have to disclose things. We have to disclose relationships. We have to disclose if there's any potential errors on the property. We have to make sure that all the correct paperwork's done, as in seller's disclosures and such. Like a wholesaler has to do none of that. Um, I feel there's more and more real estate agents starting to do that.
Well, there were before all this madness took
Right.
place. It's dried up a little
And
bit
what
now.
I would like, and I think what's happening is, I think this wholesaling thing indirectly is actually making it harder for um, for people that have owned houses to get the money that they want to, and I think they're giving money away. To be perfectly honest, because a real estate agent's supposed to give, if they represent the seller, an honest answer on what they feel that home is worth. So, from that standpoint, I think all these are issues that the Texas Real Estate Commission should be addressing.
Absolutely.
I don't think they do enough for the industry. Yes, they're there to protect the clients. Well, wholesaling in itself, to me, is not in the interest of the client or the homeowner. And I think they are shying away from their responsibilities and not doing enough for the industry by doing that. And I think the National Association of Realtors also ought to be doing more with wholesaling, because indirectly, my opinion as a broker who's been in the business for 25 years is that it really is in the interest of, one, the end client, and two, the industry, that it's done in a fair and reliable way.
Right.
And the whole wholesaling thing that I don't like is it's all sort of behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
And
It is.
and that's what I don't like about it.
And it could be some situations. Usually, it would be a case where someone would get a property, they come in, they would actually do some upgrades, and kind of go from there. But now, and I've heard of wholesale situations where they literally do nothing to the property. It's just it might be a situation where someone's in distress, right? They pre foreclosure, and they go in and convince them they're going to buy the house for what's owed on it. Maybe give them an extra 5 or 10,000 on top of that, and then they turn around and just sell it for the actual value and make up that money.
And I know, and you mentioned some off air. All right, there's a few
Companies.
so-called brokerages. I don't call them brokerages, that do this outside of their regular brokerage, thing. And I don't think it's good for the market. I don't think it's good for the reputation of the real estate industry, and I think it's something that should be stopped.
Yep.
And I really hope that the Supreme Court are making the right decisions, in the way of pocket listings. I think the owners should be allowed to sell their own houses if they want to.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't be forced to use an agent if they don't want to. At the end of the day, the golden rule is always buyer beware, and it should always be buyer beware. But if I want to sell my own house, I should be able to sell my own house and all the liabilities that come with it.
Agreed. It's all fair game.
Because that's really what you're doing is when you're selling your own house, you lie about a roof that you haven't repaired, then you're up for the hook. What are the financial implications, James?
On this?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing really that's evident at this point, because we don't really know how it would move forward down the line. Whether you have financing or not, they're just basing this on the actual values for these quote unquote pocket listings. So some will have mortgages, some may not, but either way, we're always here to lend. Use our money instead of using yours. It's not as cheap as it used to be, but of course, it's still here and still available.
So we have no news at the moment, do we, of when the Supreme Court are going to make
a decision? Heck, no, we don't know when that'll happen.
Years, couldn't it?
It could.
Yeah.
It could, but at least it's there. It's on the docket, so to speak.
I just sent you another article. And all these are off the press this morning. They were sent to me by Inman News.
What's this the one about the good friends at old Divvy?
No. Divvy, yes. Divvy.
Yeah. This does not surprise me. Not one bit.
While we're getting the article up, do you want to explain what Divvy are?
So Divvy is a company. Um, Divvy's a company, much like some of these other. I won't say fly by nights or whatever, but that was when we used. I can't even remember the one we used to use a while
Partners,
back.
Home Partners of America.
Home Partners, that's right, and it was a different name before that. But anyway, they're a rent-to-own company that basically allows you to choose the house that you want. You move in that house in as little as 15 days or so. That's what they say. That's what they tout, and then they basically will allow you to live in that home, paying rent to own that property. So they give you a certain amount of time to purchase it, to get qualified for a mortgage, and then you buy it from them. Now, on the front side of it, it sounds great, right? You can't get approved for a mortgage, but they allow you an opportunity to get into the house that you wanted, that you got declined on the mortgage or whatever, and then buy it from them. Um, I guess the only caveat for me, I mean, when you're being truly educated with this, is there's upfront monies, right? There is a qualifying period, but there's upfront monies, 1 to 2% of the sales price that goes towards you saving of the house. So it's kind of like not a full down payment, but let's just call it, let's say 2 to 3 months rent that they put in escrow, for lack of better terms, for you. And once it's time for you to buy the house, typically within 3 years,
Is,
that
it, is that a state requirement, 3 years, or
I know for Texas, I think it's a state deal,
right? Okay.
limited. Um, they allow you to live there, and that money that you put up front is, I don't know how it's indexed or what it's based on, but it's supposed to be growing as a down payment towards your home. So it's you can do that, and whenever you um, decide you want to move into the house or to go for the mortgage, then you can do that. Now there's going to be fees down the line, but let's say you change your mind. You change your mind, you can back out, and they will allow you, much like a regular apartment or whatever, 60-day notice, and the money that you put aside, they'll give that back to you, minus a relisting fee. I don't know how much that is. It might be half of it, but whatever the case is. But it's not a free ball game. But nevertheless, it's an option to rent, to buy a home that maybe you didn't qualify for with a mortgage with me, um, and then still be able to get the house that you want, allowing these people to buy it. There's different qualifications that they have for it. Location, and of course your income, and so on and so forth. But um, as you make your monthly payment in rent, they're supposed to be applying some of that money towards your down payment for it. So essentially, when it's time for you to get a mortgage, you really don't have to come out of pocket a lot of money. So the idea sounds great. Um, in general, it sounds great, but
Because there's a couple of uh, really, it's a fancy word, is it not, for rent to own,
yeah, that's what it is.
which is basically um, I don't know the legal term. Wasn't it sort of made illegal, or because it was really abusing people with the
Yeah.
accounting and
I think the way that they were doing it before, Divvy's program actually it's not a terrible thing, because depending on where the house is located, that's what will determine your rent, and part of what you're paying monthly will be going towards your savings account towards the house. So ultimately, if you play your cards right, you could be in a position to where you have your money together for a down payment when it's time for a mortgage. um my only question with it is, what are they going to be basing the appreciation on? So let's say if it's 200,000 now, in 3 years from now, of course we know it's not going to be 200,000, because you've been making payments on it. But in 3 years, a home property can increase in value a lot. So you start at 200, but now in 3 years, let's say it's 230 or 240. So I mean, it could work against you in that way if there's any negative I could think of,
Yeah. Well,
because they're not going to take a loss on the deal.
what hit me was it says Divvy Home slashes 12% of staff
Ah,
as rates continue to climb.
well, the crazy thing is they're not. Why should rates stop them if they're just doing rent to own?
Hence my point. I think it says the company valued at 2 billion as of August 2021 has reduced its employee count by 40 people.
So what's happening is probably a direct reflection of the decrease in mortgage applications. So of course you got less
But wouldn't that push
declines.
up their business? Wouldn't that?
Well, if people know about them and are using them, it should push it up because people aren't going to the mortgage companies. They just go and rent to own. But I think so many people are just deciding to just continue to rent where they are. Folks are just kind of throwing their hands up. I've had so many Facebook pages I've been on. People are just like, man, I guess we're just not going to buy anything anymore. I guess my dream of being a homeowner is over. It's like, no, it's not over. But we got a bunch of pansies that are out here now. And, any little bit of resistance just discourages them. But the rates shouldn't matter, honestly, if they did a better job at marketing.
The part that I always explain or try to explain to people and try to make a point of is for all the most wealthiest people in the world through hardship times, just like we've got now, we're going into they reckon, some people say we're at the bottom, some people say we've got another bottom.
Yeah.
I was listening to an article this morning where it was saying the S&P, they reckon, is going to be down to 3,200 by Christmas.
Lordy have mercy. I should just pull all my money out and just put it at home.
But the truth of the matter is, real estate is really the article. Real estate is always the item that survives.
It
through
weathers
inflation.
the storm. It does, because people need places to stay.
And a lot of the billionaires and millionaires. I mean, we've done some big deals. We've got some big deals coming up. Big commercial deals where people are coming in and they're picking up them locations. So I really feel that it's not just a sales pitch.
What'd you call me?
I said I don't. No, it's not. It's not a sales pitch just to get people to buy homes, but I really feel that regardless of the interest rates, I do think that if you've got to be in it for the long haul. Any type of investment, you've got to be in it for the long haul. So if you go out there and buy a house, be prepared to stay in there for a minimum of 5 to 7 years, and I think you'll make money on it.
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem I think that people have got. And there's so many other things out there now where, they feel that they can, make money and wholesale and different things. And I really don't think I'm not a big lover on wholesaling, because I think it actually, it doesn't do much for the end client at the end of the day.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And so, and I want people have been in the house and they've been there. And I think that's about it for this week.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions or anybody, I think we've got nothing in the chat. So with that being said,
We do want to say real quickly, for those that are in that Florida and East Coast area, many blessings and protection over you
absolutely.
as Ian goes up the coast there. I read somewhere that it was looking at going back over the water and then coming back on the land. So hopefully
really?
hopefully that's not a huge impact to the area. But God bless all of you guys and cover your protection If you're in that area, we pray that all things will be well for you when it comes through. So
Especially when Mickey Mouse has got to go
yeah,
and
man.
hide.
Yeah, man.
I was
Hope so.
surprised to see he was a reporter actually standing in the Magic Kingdom last night.
Really? Well, were there not many people around? I'm assuming, huh? They
No,
probably evacuated that
people
thing.
locked up in Disney hotels.
Got up out of there. Yeah.
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 But no, we're thinking of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be safe, and we'll be back here next week. Remember, down in the description, all of our information if you want to get into real estate or buy, sell, rent, lease a home, or if you need a mortgage to do any of those things. We're here to help and do that. Please share and subscribe so you get notifications when the show goes live. We look forward to seeing you guys next week.
That'd be great.
All
Okay.
right.
All right, guys. Take care. All right.